The ship moved through the darkness of space like a small fish swimming into an ocean full of sharks. Captain Tay stood at the window of the bridge and watched the stars pass by. His hands were folded behind his back. His face showed nothing. The horizon was not a big ship. It was not a powerful ship. It was simply the first ship that humans had ever sent beyond their own solar system. 300 years of work, 300 years of dreams, and now they were finally here. In the unknown, Lieutenant Yuna sat at her station, her fingers moving across the controls. She was young, maybe 28 years old, but her eyes were sharp and focused. She had been chosen for this mission because she never panicked. Even now, as strange signals filled her screens, she remained calm. "Captain," she said quietly, "we have contact." Tay did not move. He simply nodded once Dr. Wu looked up from his research table. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his whole life studying the possibility of alien life. Now, that possibility was about to become real. How many ships? Tay asked Yun. They checked their readings. 17. They are surrounding us. 17 ships. The horizon had no weapons. They had come in peace, hoping to find friends among the stars. But the ships forming a circle around them did not look friendly. They were massive, covered in weapons, built for war. Tay turned to face his crew. There were only 42 people on the ship. Scientists, engineers, pilots, doctors. Good people. Brave people. They had all known the risks when they volunteered for this mission. "Everyone stay calm," Tay said. His voice was soft but steady. "We will meet whoever this is with respect. We will not show fear." Dr. Wu stood up and walked to stand beside the captain. "Do you think they will be hostile?" "I think they will expect us to be hostile," Tay replied. "So we will not be." A message came through the communication system. The language was strange at first, but the ship's computers worked quickly to translate it. Within minutes, a cold voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel. You have entered the territory of the Velen Collective. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your destruction." Yuna looked at the captain. Her hand moved toward the emergency beacon, but she did not press it. There was no point. Earth was too far away to help them. Tay straightened his uniform. "Open the airlock," he said. "Let them come aboard." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but no one argued. They had trained for this moment. They had prepared for every possibility. Now they would see if their preparation was enough. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Then the aliens appeared. They were tall, over 7 feet, with bodies covered in hard shells like insects. Their eyes were large and black, without any warmth or emotion. They carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. At the front of the group walked their leader. His shell was darker than the others, marked with symbols that might have been medals or ranks. He stopped in front of Captain Tay and looked down at him. "I am Kel," the alien said, "ambassador of the Velen Collective. You will identify yourself and your species." Tay bowed his head slightly. It was a gesture of respect, nothing more. "I am Captain Tay. We are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace." Kel made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace. Every species says this word when they are weak. It means nothing." Tay did not argue. He simply waited. This seemed to bother Kel. He had expected shouting, perhaps, begging, maybe even an attack. Instead, this small creature just stood there, looking at him with calm eyes. "You do not understand your situation," Kel said. "The Velen Collective rules this galaxy. We control over 40 species. We have existed for 10,000 years. You are nothing. Your planet is nothing. Your people are nothing." Dr. Wu stepped forward. His voice was gentle, like a teacher speaking to a student. "We understand. Please, tell us more about your collective. We wish to learn." Cal stared at him. In all his years of first contact missions, no species had ever asked to learn. They had screamed. They had cried. They had attacked and died. But they had never asked questions with such quiet curiosity. "You will be given a designated area of space," Cal said slowly. "You will not expand beyond it. You will pay tribute to the collective every cycle. You will follow our laws. If you disobey, your species will be destroyed. These are the terms." Captain Tay nodded. "We understand your terms. We will discuss them with our people." "There is nothing to discuss. You will accept, of course." Tay's voice remained soft. "May I offer you and your delegation some refreshment? Our journey has been long, and I imagine yours has as well." Cal did not know how to respond. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. Where was the fear? Where was the anger? This human just stood there, offering him food and drink like they were old friends meeting for a meal. "We do not need your hospitality," Cal said. "As you wish." Tay smiled gently. "Then perhaps you would like a tour of our ship? It is small, but we are proud of what our people have built." Lieutenant Yuna watched the exchange from her station. She understood what the captain was doing. He was showing the aliens that humans could not be intimidated. Not through threats. Not through weapons. Not through insults. The Velen delegation stayed for 3 hours. They inspected every room, every system, every piece of equipment. They found nothing dangerous. No hidden weapons. No secret armies. Just 42 humans going about their work quietly and efficiently. When Kel finally returned to his own ship, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt uncertain. His second officer approached him. "Ambassador, what did you learn about these humans?" Kel stood at the window of his ship and watched the horizon floating peacefully in space. Such a small vessel. Such a small crew. They should have been terrified. "They said nothing," Kel replied. "They did not threaten us. They did not beg. They just watched us with those calm eyes. Perhaps they are simply stupid. Too primitive to understand the danger." "No," Kel shook his head. "There was intelligence in their eyes. They understood everything. They simply chose not to react." He turned away from the window. "Send a message to the High Council. Tell them about this new species. Tell them." He paused, searching for the right words. "Tell them that I am concerned." "Concerned? About these creatures?" "Yes, I have served the collective for 200 years. I have seen 1,000 species bow before us. But these humans..." Kel's voice trailed off. "Their silence disturbs me. It is not the silence of weakness. It is the silence of something waiting." The message was sent. The High Council received it, read it, and dismissed it. Humans were small, primitive, harmless. There were more important matters to attend to. They did not listen to Kel's warning. They should have dot far away. The horizon continued its journey home. Captain Tay sat in his quarters, writing his report. His hand moved steadily across the paper. "First contact successful," he wrote. "The Velen collective is large and powerful. They see us as weak. This is good. We have much to learn about them. We have much to prepare. For now, we will be quiet. We will watch. We will wait." He paused and looked out his window at the endless stars. "And when the time comes, we will be ready." 5 years had passed since first contact. 5 years of silence. 5 years of obedience. 5 years that made Elder Wren want to scream. He stood on the observation deck of his station, looking down at the human colony below. They called it Novo. It was a small world, green and blue, covered in forests and oceans. The humans had built their cities carefully, blending them into the landscape like they belonged there. Ren hated it. He was a Vulcan overseer, assigned to watch over humanity and make sure they followed the rules. It was supposed to be an easy job. New species always caused trouble. They complained about the tribute payments. They protested the restrictions on their expansion. They formed little rebellions that the Vellum crushed without effort. But humans did none of these things. They paid their tribute on time, every time. They stayed within their designated space. They followed every law, no matter how unfair. They smiled and nodded and said, "Yes, of course," to every demand. It was driving Ren insane. Governor Mina walked into the observation room. She was a small woman with short black hair and a gentle face. She moved quietly, like a shadow, and Ren never heard her coming until she was already there. "Elder Ren," she said, bowing her head slightly. "You wanted to see me?" Ren turned to face her. His black eyes studied her carefully, looking for any sign of deception. He found nothing. "Your people have been here for 3 years," he said. "In that time, you have caused no problems. You have broken no laws. You have done everything we asked." Mina smiled. "We are grateful for the opportunity to live here. The collective has been very generous." "Generous?" Ren made a harsh sound. "We have taken half of everything you produce. We have limited your population growth. We have forbidden you from developing new weapons." "Yes," Mina agreed. "And we have accepted these terms." "Is there a problem, Elder?" There was a problem. Ren could feel it in his shells. Something was wrong with these humans. They were too calm, too accepting, too quiet. Every other species under Velen rule complained constantly. The Keth screamed about unfair treatment. The Moor threatened rebellion every decade. Even the peaceful Inari wrote angry letters to the High Council demanding better trade agreements. But humans? Nothing. Not a single complaint in 5 years. "I want to inspect your facilities," Ren said. "All of them?" Mina nodded. "Of course. Sergeant J will be happy to escort you wherever you wish to go." Sergeant J was waiting outside. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious face. He wore the uniform of the Colonial Defense Force, though Ren knew they had no real weapons. Just simple tools for protection against wild animals. "Elder Ren," Jay said, bowing. "Where would you like to begin?" Ren spent 3 days inspecting the colony. He visited the farms, the factories, the hospitals, the schools. Everything was clean and organized. Everything was exactly as it should be. And yet something felt wrong. On the second day, Ren noticed something strange. When he entered a room, conversations would stop. People would smile and greet him politely, but the words they had been saying seemed to vanish into the air. When he left, he could hear the soft murmur of voices resuming behind him. On the third day, he saw a young woman pass a piece of paper to a young man. It was quick, almost invisible. If Ren had blinked, he would have missed it. The paper disappeared into the man's pocket, and both of them continued walking as if nothing had happened. Ren said nothing, but he remembered. That night, he used his authority to access the colony's communication records. He expected to find secret messages, hidden plans, evidence of rebellion. Instead, he found nothing. The humans sent boring messages about work schedules and family dinners. They talked about the weather and their children's education. But Ren had been an overseer for a long time. He knew that the most dangerous secrets were the ones that left no trace. He began watching more carefully. He installed hidden cameras in public spaces. He monitored power usage in different buildings. He tracked the movements of key colonists. What he found made his blood run cold. The humans were not just surviving. They were thriving. Their population was growing 3 times faster than his report showed. Their children were being educated in subjects far beyond what primitive species should know. And their technology. Ren discovered a hidden laboratory beneath the main hospital. It was small, carefully disguised as a storage facility. But inside, human scientists were working on weapons that made Velen technology look like children's toys. Energy shields that could stop any projectile. Engines that could outrun the fastest Velen ships. Communication devices that left no signal, no trace. Nothing that could be intercepted. Ren stood in the darkness outside the laboratory, watching through a crack in the wall. His hearts were beating so fast he thought they might explode. They had been planning this from the beginning. All the silence, all the obedience, all the polite smiles, it was a mask. Behind it, humanity was preparing for something. Something big. He returned to his quarters and called Governor Mina. She arrived within minutes, as calm and polite as always. She sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap, waiting for him to speak. "I know what you are doing," Ren said. Mina tilted her head. "I'm sorry, Elder. What do you mean?" "The hidden laboratories. The advanced weapons. The secret communications." Ren leaned forward, his eyes burning with anger. "You have been deceiving us from the very beginning." Mina was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was almost sad. "Elder Ren," she said softly, "we are simply adapting to our circumstances. Isn't that what you wanted?" "I wanted obedience. And we have been obedient. We have paid every tribute. We have followed every law. We have never raised a hand against any member of the collective." Ren stood up, his shells rattling with fury. "You have been building weapons." "We have been protecting ourselves," Mina replied. Her voice remained calm. "Your collective has made it very clear that we are nothing, that our planet is nothing, that our people are nothing. We have simply taken steps to ensure that if that belief is ever tested, we will not be found wanting." Ren stared at her. In that moment, he understood something terrible. The humans were not afraid of him. They were not afraid of the collective. They had been playing a game that he only now realized existed. "I will report this to the High Council," he said. Mia nodded. "Of course. That is your duty. They will send fleets. They will destroy your colonies. They will burn your homeworld to ash. Perhaps." Mina stood up and walked toward the door. She paused with her hand on the frame and looked back at him. "Or perhaps they will underestimate us, as they have from the very beginning. As you have, Elder Ren." She left without another word. Ren sent his message that night. He wrote everything he had discovered. The hidden technology, the secret communications, the quiet preparation for war. He begged the High Council to take action before it was too late. "They are too quiet," he wrote at the end. "Something is coming. I can feel it. Please, listen to me. These humans are not what they appear to be." The High Council received his message. They read it carefully. Then High Chancellor Vaughn laughed and tossed it aside. "Ren has gone mad," he told his advisors. "Humans are insects. They pose no threat to us. We have conquered species 1,000 times more powerful." "But the hidden weapons," one advisor began. "Toys," Vaughn interrupted. "Even if they have advanced somewhat, they are still centuries behind us. Let them build their little devices. When we decide to crush them, we will do so easily." The council agreed. Ren's warning was filed away and forgotten. On Novo, Governor Mina watched the stars from her window. Sergeant J stood beside her, his face hard with determination. "Do you think they will come?" he asked. "Eventually," Mina replied. "They always do. The powerful cannot stand to be ignored. Sooner or later, they will want to remind us of our place. And when they do?" Mina turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, but beneath that calm was something stronger. Something that had been building for 5 years. When they do, she said, we will be ready. We have been watching them, Jay, learning their weaknesses, memorizing their patrol routes and supply lines. We know things about the collective that the collective does not know about itself. She looked back at the stars. They think our silence is weakness. They think we are too afraid to speak. But silence is not always fear. Sometimes it is patience. Sometimes it is focus. And sometimes, Sergeant J, silence is the last thing you hear before everything changes. Far away, Elder Wren sat alone in his quarters, staring at the wall. He had done everything he could. He had warned them. He had begged them to listen. Now, all he could do was wait and watch as the quiet humans continued their silent preparation. And hope that when the storm finally came, he would be far, far away. High Chancellor Vaughn stood before the great window of his palace, watching the Velen war fleet move into position. 100 ships, armed with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. It was more firepower than they had used in 3 centuries, all of it aimed at one small human colony. Today, Vaughn announced to his council, we remind the galaxy who rules these stars. The attack on Novo was quick and brutal. The Velen ships appeared without warning, surrounding the planet before anyone could react. They opened fire on the orbital stations first, turning them into clouds of burning metal and frozen bodies. Then they targeted the surface. Cities burned. Forests became ash. The beautiful green and blue world that humans had built with 5 years of careful work was torn apart in hours. 8,000 humans died that day. Men, women, children. Their screams were broadcast across the galaxy for everyone to see. Governor Mina was among the dead. Sergeant J survived only because he was off-world, delivering supplies to a remote outpost. When he heard the news, he said nothing. He simply sat in the darkness of his ship and stared at the floor. Vaughn appeared on every screen in the galaxy. His face was proud, his voice cold and satisfied. This is what happens to those who forget their place, he declared. Humanity thought they could hide their secrets from us. They thought they could build their little weapons and challenge the collective. They were wrong. Let this be a lesson to all who would defy us. The other species of the galaxy watched in silence. The Keth, the Moor, the Lenari. They had all seen this before. They had all learned the same lesson, paid in the blood of their own people. Vaughn expected the humans to respond immediately. He expected screaming demands for justice. He expected desperate attacks that his forces would crush. He expected begging for mercy. Instead, he got silence. The human diplomatic channels went dark. Their ships across the galaxy returned to port and powered down. Their colony transmissions ceased. Their trade vessels stopped moving. For 3 days, nothing happened. The galaxy held its breath. On the 4th day, Vaughn sent scouts to investigate. They found human stations empty, abandoned. The lights were off. The engines were cold. It was like the entire species had simply vanished. Where are they? Vaughn demanded. No one could answer him. A week passed. Then 2. Then 3. Still nothing. No communication. No movement. No response. The silence began to spread through the galaxy like a disease. Other species started to whisper. Why don't they fight? The Keth asked each other. Why don't they beg? Perhaps they are too weak, the Moor suggested. Perhaps they have simply given up. But deep down, everyone knew that was not true. They had all seen how humans behaved. They had all noticed the strange calmness, the quiet confidence. Humans did not give up. They were planning something. Vaughn grew nervous. He could not sleep. He kept seeing those calm human eyes in his dreams, watching him, studying him, waiting. Send more scouts, he ordered. Find them. Find them now. The scouts found nothing. Human space was a ghost land. Empty stations. abandoned ships, cold, dark silence. And then, on the 21st day, Ambassador Sung arrived on Lesser Prime. He came alone in a small shuttle, unarmed. The Velen guards laughed when they saw him. One human walking into the heart of the collective like he owned the place. They brought him to the High Council chamber. It was a massive room, built to intimidate. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered with the skulls of conquered species. And at the center, on a throne made from the bones of his enemies, sat High Chancellor Vaughn. "You dare to come here?" Vaughn asked. His voice echoed through the chamber. "After everything we have done to your people?" Ambassador Sung walked forward calmly. He was not a tall man. His hair was gray, his face lined with age. But his eyes were sharp and clear, and they showed no fear. "I come to deliver a message," Sung said. Vaughn leaned forward on his throne. "What message could you possibly have that interests me?" "Your species is finished. Your colonies will burn. Your homeworld will be dust." Sung reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. He walked up to the council table and placed it gently on the surface. "This is a list," he said. "Please review it." One of the council members activated the chip. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing thousands of names, locations, and images. Vaughn frowned. "What is this?" "The names and locations of every High Council member's family," Sung said quietly. "Every hidden vault where you keep your treasures. Every secret escape route you have prepared. Every safe house, every bunker, every private ship." The chamber went silent. Sung continued. "We also know the patrol schedules of your military, the weak points in your defense grid, the locations of your fuel depots and supply stations, the names of every commander and their habits, their fears, their weaknesses." He paused and looked directly at Vaughn. "We have been watching you," Sung said. "For 5 years, while you laughed at us and called us nothing, we were learning everything about you. Every secret, every lie, every hidden shame." Vaughn stood up from his throne. His shells were shaking with rage. "You are bluffing, am I?" Sung smiled gently. "Your youngest daughter is named Vela. She lives on a private station in the Krath Nebula. She has a garden there, where she grows flowers from 17 different worlds. Her favorite is the blue orchid from Menor. Every morning, she walks through that garden alone, without guards, because she believes no one knows where she is." The color drained from Vaughn's face. "Your chief military advisor has a secret account where he has been hiding tribute payments for decades. Your minister of trade is having an affair with an enemy spy. Your most trusted general is planning to overthrow you and has already contacted 3 other council members about joining him." Sung turned to look at the rest of the council. They were frozen in their seats, their eyes wide with shock and fear. "We know everything," Sung said. "Because while you were busy being powerful, we were busy being patient. While you were shouting, we were listening. While you were celebrating your strength, we were finding your weaknesses." He turned back to Vaughn. "You killed 8,000 of our people," Sung said. His voice was still quiet, still calm. 8,000 lives, mothers, fathers, children. You burned them alive and broadcasted across the galaxy." He took a step closer to the throne. "We do not shout," Sung said. "We do not threaten. We do not beg. We watch. We learn. We remember." He turned and began walking toward the door. "Wait," Vaughn said. His voice cracked slightly. "What do you want? What are your demands?" Sung stopped at the door and looked back over his shoulder. "We want nothing from you, Chancellor. We are not here to negotiate. We are not here to make deals. We are simply here to tell you something." "What?" Sung's eyes met Vaughn's. In that moment, the most powerful being in the galaxy, felt a cold fear spread through his body. "The silence is over," Sung said. "What comes next is not a war. It is a consequence." He walked out of the chamber without another word. Behind him, chaos erupted. Council members shouted at each other. Guards ran in every direction. Vaughn screamed for his military commanders, demanding immediate action, demanding protection, demanding answers. But Ambassador Sung did not hear any of it. He walked calmly back to his shuttle, climbed inside, and flew away from Desert Prime. Far away, in the darkness of space, Admiral Hana watched Sung's shuttle on her screen. She stood on the bridge of a ship that did not officially exist, surrounded by a fleet that no one had ever seen. Did he deliver the message? She asked. Her communications officer nodded. "Yes, Admiral. The Council is in chaos." Hannah smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good," she said. "Then we begin." She turned to face her crew. 300 ships waited in the shadows, crewed by humans who had trained for this moment their entire lives. They had no flags on their hulls, no names on their vessels. They were ghosts. "Remember," Hana said, "no broadcasts, no announcements, no mercy for their machines, but no unnecessary death for their people. We are not like them. We will never be like them." She looked out at the stars. "Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you wake the quiet ones." The fleet moved forward into the darkness, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy had seen many wars. Wars that lasted centuries. Wars that burned entire star systems. Wars announced with great speeches and terrible threats. But the galaxy had never seen a war like this. It began without a single word. "Commander." They moved through the corridors of the Velen communication hub like a shadow. His team followed behind him, 8 soldiers dressed in black, their footsteps making no sound. They had trained for this mission for 3 years. Every corner, every guard rotation, every security code, they knew it all. The first guard never saw them. A hand covered his mouth while a needle slipped into his neck. He was unconscious before his body hit the floor. The second guard turned at the wrong moment. He opened his mouth to shout, but no sound came out. Another needle, another silent fall. In 12 minutes, Commander Day and his team had taken control of the most important communication hub in the galaxy. No alarms, no shots fired, no warnings sent. They did not destroy the hub. Instead, they simply turned it off. Across the galaxy, Velen ships lost contact with each other. Commanders screamed into their radios and heard only static. Orders from the High Council vanished into the void. The great web of communication that held the collective together went dark. At the same moment, Captain Nari guided her ship, the Silent Dawn, through an asteroid field toward a Velen fuel depot. The depot was huge, containing enough energy to power 1,000 warships for a year. It was also completely unprotected, because no one knew it existed. No one except the humans who had been watching. "Team ready," Nari said softly into her communicator. Her crew moved like ghosts. They attached small devices to the depot's main systems, not bombs, but something smarter. Control units that would let them decide when and how the fuel flowed. If the Velen wanted to power their ships, they would need human permission. "Depot secured," the team leader reported. Nari allowed herself a small smile. "Move to the next target." General Hyon sat in a dark room on Earth, surrounded by screens showing every operation in progress. He was an old man now, with white hair and a face carved by decades of careful planning. He had designed this war in his mind 1,000 times. Now he was watching it become real. "Communication hub offline," a technician reported. "Fuel depot secured," another added. "Defense satellites in Sector 7 disabled." Hyan nodded at each report. Everything was happening exactly as planned. 42 targets in the first hour. 117 by morning. All of them military. All of them strategic. None of them civilian. Remember, he said to his staff, we are not murderers. We are not conquerors. We are simply removing the ability of our enemy to hurt us. On Nesser Prime, High Chancellor Vaughn was screaming, what do you mean you cannot reach the fleet? He shouted at his advisors. What do you mean the defense grid is down? What is happening? No one could answer him. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy, or rather reports were trying to come in. Most of them never arrived. Those that did painted a picture of impossible efficiency. Human teams had appeared inside Velen military bases without triggering any alarms. Ships had been disabled while sitting in port. Commanders had vanished from their quarters without a trace. They are ghosts, one general said, his voice shaking. We cannot find them. We cannot track them. They appear, they strike, and they disappear. Find them. Vaughn screamed. Use everything we have. But there was nothing to use. The weapons needed fuel, and humans controlled the fuel. The ships needed orders, and the communication network was dead. The soldiers needed leadership, and half the military commanders had woken up in strange locations with no memory of how they got there. The Velen war machine, built over 10,000 years, was falling apart without a single battle being fought in the outer regions of the galaxy. A Velen patrol ship drifted alone in space. Its communications were dead. Its engines were offline. The crew stood at the windows, watching the darkness. Then they saw the human ships dot. They came out of the shadows, not attacking, just surrounding. Dozens of vessels, each one more advanced than anything the Velen had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, without a single word being spoken. The Velen captain raised his hands in surrender. What do you want? He asked into the emergency channel. What are your demands? A human voice answered, calm, quiet, almost gentle. We want you to go home, the voice said. Tell your people what you have seen. Tell them that the war is over. There is no need for more death. Over? The captain was confused. But you have not attacked us. You have not destroyed anything. We have destroyed your ability to fight, the voice replied. Your fuel is ours. Your communications are ours. Your secrets are ours. We do not need to kill you. We just needed to stop you. The human ships moved aside, creating a clear path back to Velen space. Go, the voice said. Go on live. But remember this. We did not start this war. We do not want this war. We simply ended it. The Velen captain ordered his crew to move. As they flew away, he looked back at the human fleet one last time. They did not chase. They did not threaten. They simply watched Dodd. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. Across the galaxy, other species were watching too. The Keth, who had been oppressed for centuries, saw the mighty Velen brought low without a single planet being burned. The Moor, who had dreamed of rebellion for generations, saw that resistance was possible. A Keth leader sent a message to Captain Nari. How do we join you? She asked. How do we fight? Nari's response was simple. You do not need to join us. You just need to stand up. The Velen cannot fight everyone at once. They never could. They only made you believe they could. Within days, rebellions erupted across the collective. Not violent revolutions, quiet ones. Workers stopped working. Ships stopped flying. Tributes stopped being paid. The systems that had kept the Velen in power for 10,000 years simply stopped functioning. Vonn watched his empire crumble from his palace window. His advisors were gone, either captured by humans or hiding in fear. His military was paralyzed. His allies were abandoning him. How? He whispered to the empty room. How did they do this? He thought about the humans he had dismissed as nothing. The calm eyes that had watched him without fear. The quiet voices that had asked questions instead of making demands. The patient waiting that had seemed like weakness. It was not weakness. It was preparation. Every smile, every bow, every polite acceptance of unfair terms. It was all part of a plan that had been building from the very first day. On Earth, General Hyon received the final reports. The Velen military was effectively destroyed. Not through violence, but through strategic removal of their ability to function. No cities had been burned. No civilians had been killed. The war had been won without becoming the very thing they had fought against. What happens now? An aide asked. Hyon stood up from his chair. His old bones ached, but his heart was light. Now we build something better, he said. The Velen were not evil. They were just trapped in a system that rewarded cruelty and punished kindness. We have broken that system. Now we help them build a new one, and if they refuse? Hyon smiled. They will not refuse. They have seen what we can do. They have learned what we learned long ago. What is that? The general walked to the window and looked up at the stars that humans had once only dreamed of reaching. Power is not about destruction, he said. It is about control. We do not need to burn their worlds. We do not need to kill their people. We just need to make sure they cannot hurt us. And now they cannot. He turned back to his aide. The galaxy is watching. They have seen empires rule through fear for 10,000 years. Now they have seen something different. They have seen humans win a war without becoming monsters. He paused. That is more powerful than any weapon. That is what will change everything. In the darkness of space, human ships began to stand down. The war was over. But the work was just beginning. And across the galaxy, in whispers and quiet conversations, beings of every species began to talk about the humans. Quiet ones, the patient ones. The ones who watched and learned and remembered. The ones who had terrified every galactic empire without raising their voices, and who had won without losing their souls. 1 year had passed since the war ended. 1 year since the Velen Collective fell apart. 1 year since everything changed. The galaxy was different now. Not broken, not destroyed, just different. The systems that had kept billions of beings in fear for 10,000 years had simply stopped working. And in their place, something new was growing. Ambassador Yoon stood at the center of the Great Hall on Unity Station. It was a new place built in neutral space, where representatives from every species could meet as equals. The walls were made of transparent metal, showing the stars in every direction. A reminder that they were all small in the face of the universe. Around her sat delegates from 43 species, Velen, Keth, Moor, Linari, and dozens more. Some had been enemies for centuries. Some had never spoken before. Now they were here, together, trying to build something that had never existed before. The Galactic Alliance is not about power, Bun said, her voice calm and clear. It is about cooperation. No species will rule over another. No tribute will be demanded. No worlds will be threatened. A Velen delegate raised his hand. His name was Kor, and he had once been a military commander. Now he was just a representative, equal to everyone else in the room. How can we trust this? Kor asked. How can we trust that humans will not become what we were? You nodded. It was a fair question. You cannot trust our words, she admitted. Words are easy, but you can trust our actions. We had the power to destroy you. We had the power to enslave you, as you enslaved others. We chose not to. That choice is who we are. She looked around the room at all the faces watching her. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in it peacefully alongside all of you. We want to trade and learn and grow together. We want our children to see the stars without fear. An old Keth delegate stood up. Her scales were gray with age, and her voice was rough from years of speaking against injustice. "I have lived under Velen rule for 200 years, she said. "I have seen my people beaten, starved, and killed. I never believed freedom was possible. And then I watched the humans do what no one else could do. They broke the chains without spilling rivers of blood." She turned to look at Yoon. "I will trust the Alliance," she said, "because I have seen what humans do with power. And it gives me hope." One by one, the other delegates stood. Some were uncertain. Some were afraid. But all of them chose to try. The Galactic Alliance was born that day. Not with a war, not with a conquest, but with a simple agreement to be better than before. Far away, on Earth, President Ho received the news. He was sitting in his office, looking out at the green hills of his homeworld. It had been a long journey from the small planet where humanity had first dreamed of the stars. "The Alliance is official," his aide told him. "All 43 species have signed." Ho nodded slowly. "Good. That is good." He thought about all the people who had made this moment possible. Captain Tae, who had faced the first Velen delegation with quiet courage. Governor Mina, who had died protecting her people. Ambassador Sung, who had walked into the heart of enemy territory, armed with nothing but truth. Admiral Hannah, who had led a war without hatred. And countless others whose names would never be known. "We should celebrate," his aide suggested. Ho shook his head. "We should work. The hard part is just beginning. Building something is always harder than breaking something." He stood up and walked to the window. "We have shown the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. Now we must show them something more important. We must show them that power does not have to corrupt. That strength does not have to mean cruelty. That we can be powerful and still be kind." He turned back to his aide. "That is the real test. And it will take generations to pass it." 3 months later, a ship from the Moor Dominion arrived at Earth. The Moor were a powerful species who had watched the fall of the Velen from a distance. They had never been part of the collective, and they had never been conquered. Their leader, Admiral Thane, requested a meeting with President Ho. It was granted immediately. They met in a simple room with simple furniture. No thrones, no skulls on the walls, just 2 chairs and a small table between them. Thane was an imposing figure, tall, covered in dark scales, with eyes that had seen countless battles. He sat across from Ho and studied him carefully. "Your kind terrifies us," Thane said finally. Ho raised an eyebrow. "Terrifies?" "Yes." Thane leaned forward. "We have watched empires rise and fall for eons. We understand how power works. Species gain strength. They conquer. They rule. They grow cruel. They fall. It is a cycle as old as the stars." He paused. "But you have broken the cycle. You gained power without becoming tyrants. You won a war without committing genocide. You built an alliance based on cooperation instead of fear." He shook his head. "We do not understand how this is possible." Ho smiled gently. "It is not easy. We fight against our own nature every day. There are humans who want to rule, who want to dominate, who want to become exactly what we fought against. But we choose, every day, to be better. How can you be sure you will always make that choice? We cannot." Ho's voice was honest. "We can only try. We can build systems that check power. We can teach our children the importance of kindness. We can remember the lessons of history. But in the end, it comes down to choice. Every generation must make that choice again." Thane was quiet for a long moment. "The Moor Dominion will not threaten Earth," he said finally. "We will not test you. We will not provoke you." Ho nodded. "We appreciate that, but I must know something." Thane leaned forward, his eyes intense. "What is it about humans that makes you this way? What is your secret?" Ho thought about the question. He thought about all of human history, the wars, the cruelty, the darkness, but also the kindness, the courage, the hope. The way humans could fall so far and still climb back up. I think, Ho said slowly, it is because we are afraid. Thane frowned. Afraid? Yes, we are afraid of becoming monsters. We have seen what happens when power goes unchecked. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. We know how easy it is to lose ourselves. He paused. So we hold on tight to the things that make us good. We remind each other. We watch each other. We never let ourselves forget that we are capable of great evil, so that we can choose to be good instead. Thane nodded slowly. I think I understand. There is something else, Ho added. We have learned that when a human goes quiet, you should be afraid. Not of what we will say, but of what we have already decided to do. Thane's eyes widened slightly. You are a strange species, he said. Terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Thank you, Ho replied. I think that is the best compliment we have ever received. Thane returned to the More Dominion with a single recommendation for his leaders. Do not provoke humanity. Do not test them. And whatever you do, do not mistake their silence for weakness. The More listened. Years passed. The Galactic Alliance grew stronger. Trade flourished between species that had once been enemies. Children from different worlds learned side by side in schools that taught cooperation instead of conquest. On Earth, Admiral Tainau, retired, stood at a memorial built for those who had died on Novo. 8,000 names were carved in the black stone, surrounded by gardens of flowers from 17 different worlds. A young girl walked up to him. She was maybe 10 years old, with bright eyes and curious questions. Are you the captain? She asked. The one from the first contact? Tay smiled. That was a long time ago. I am just an old man now. My teacher told us about you. She said you were brave because you stayed quiet when the aliens were scary. Tay knelt down to look her in the eyes. Do you want to know a secret? He asked. The girl nodded eagerly. I was terrified, Tay admitted. Every moment of that first meeting, I was scared. But I knew that showing fear would not help us. So I chose to be quiet. I chose to listen. I chose to wait. He pointed at the memorial. Many people had to make that same choice. To be patient when they wanted to scream. To plan when they wanted to attack. To hope when everything seemed lost. He stood back up. Someday, you will have to make choices like that too. When that day comes, remember what your teachers taught you. Speak softly. Plan carefully. And when the time comes, act without hesitation. The girl nodded seriously. I will remember. She ran off to join her friends, and Tay watched her go. The future was in good hands. That night, he looked up at the stars from his garden. So many lights. So many worlds. So many possibilities. Humanity had taken its first steps into the galaxy as a small, weak species that no one respected. Now they stood as guardians of something precious, not conquerors, but keepers of hope. And in the quiet of space, where stars burned and empires rose and fell, the lesson of humanity echoed through the ages. The quiet ones are not weak. The patient ones are not foolish. And the ones who watch and learn and remember, they are the ones who change everything, without ever raising their voices.